Hello. If you watched episode 3 of this series, you'll have noticed that we rode through what looked like a small area of fire-damaged forest. In fact, there were thousands upon thousands of acres of it, and that was just the devastation from the previous year's wildfires. God knows what it'll look like by autumn 23. As global temperatures climb and the extreme summer heat waves become the norm, ever more desperate measures to avoid catastrophe are imposed at local level. The logic behind some of these measures you might question, but as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So when we were asked to fit spark arresters before taking to the tinder-dry lanes of the Iberian Peninsula on pain of park rangers being permitted to impound non-complying motorcycles, we did as we were told. Nozzer's methodology for the 1190 was elegant, involving a neat bracket and a couple of mesh kitchen sink drain inserts. I admit that my efforts were less aesthetically pleasing, being based on rabbit retention hardware rather than sewer clog prevention tactics, but at least mine had added comedy value, as the 790 throbbed expectantly on tickover as if straining at the leash, ready to take on and relish the day's challenges. Still, neither could be accused of failing to comply, even if the likelihood of us setting fire to Portugal, Spain or anywhere else for that matter was exceedingly remote, with or without the aforementioned embellishments. Anyway, on with the ride. Day 5 of our trip was also day 4 on the Portuguese dirt trails, loosely following the brilliant Adventure Country Tracks, or ACT, route south from Bragança to the Atlantic Ocean in the tourist honey trap that is the Algarve. This day would see us attempt to travel from our somewhat shonky campsite near Belver to the beautiful old town of Moura, and hopefully a more comfortable night. We started by passing this Moura gem jazzy toner, which more or less translates as olive milling, and plenty of olives there were to be turned into delicious oils. We also started the day by repassing some spectacular agave plants that we'd already spotted the evening before when searching for some place to camp. Thereafter, things began to turn decidedly yellower and sandier than ever beneath our hard-worked tyres. We also now started to see the cork trees. These extraordinary evergreen oaks could be identified thanks to their apparently having had their trousers pulled down. This stems from the process which sees the bark carefully peeled off up to the height of about 7 feet, yielding a harvest of cork for cork boarding, the cork core of cricket balls, and most famously the cork that keeps your wine from staining your carpet, mostly. Despite a process which would surely kill off any other tree, the cork oak's unique trick is that it has the ability to grow new bark so long as the reddish-brown underlayer is left intact. It manages to complete this regrowth about every 9 years. Each tree in a plantation has a number painted on it which tells the farmer which year the last harvest took place. The bark is ready to harvest or be reharvested when it can be comfortably punched. Harvesting can go on for over 200 years, and some of these cork oaks are known to have survived to an age of 400, so there's no need to fret about how much wine you're getting through. You don't always realise you're in a plantation because each cork oak needs a lot of space to live a long, healthy and productive life. The planting therefore seems sporadic, giving the impression that they are naturally occurring and not being managed at all. When you consider how ancient these orchards are, and indeed how old are the trees in the olive groves and the vines in the vineyards, you can gain an idea of just how devastating to communities the wildfires suffered in these areas of Europe in recent years must be. After all, these precious plants will have been handed down from generation to generation, providing a living for many families through the centuries. Anyway, on with the trip, which saw us crossing a great plain south of the central mountainous region of natural parks. We rode through a few towns which, as seems to be pretty much the case throughout rural Portugal, 3 exterior paint salesmen regularly pass by, the first with a vast quantity of heat-reflecting white, the next with a slightly smaller quantity of mustard yellow, and the last with still less product in a hue of mid-blue. Quite possibly there are others hoping to sell pinks, greens, reds, purples, browns and what have you. But judging by the success of the first 3, I doubt any aspiring alternative colour salesmen are even able to feed their families. This was a truly excellent day's riding. Generally, the trails were not at all technical in nature, tending more towards fast and dusty going, although exceptionally slippery when wet. and wet we would encounter, as our hottest morning yet gave rise to an earlier than usual build-up of threatening cloud. Before long, the heat was challenged by the appearance of icy hail followed by a spell of heavy rain. We were well into strongly scented eucalyptus forests interspersed by the now familiar cork oaks. Through the rain, we were almost instantaneously dried out by the heat as we headed ever southwards through acres of wheat fields, and then vineyards, and finally drier, more desert-like scrubland, which would remind us of landscapes first seen in cowboy movies. Navigational missteps requiring mid-trail go-arounds were as commonplace as ever, the rate of these crimes being committed at a ratio of 5 by me to every 1 by Nozzer. In my defence, I didn't have Nozzer's tally of 4 variably zoomable devices containing GPS units, being 1 GPS unit, 1 Garmin sat-nav, and 2 smartphones. Crucially, not least because he's smarter than me, he was also enjoying great success with his OSM and Maps, or Osmond Maps app, which was amazingly giving him turn-by-turn verbal instructions even when following mine and ACT's off-tarmac tracks. This is something Garmin units won't do. Creating tracks in Garmin's navigation software for use in pure GPS units, rather than routes to use in conventional sat-nav units, avoids the tail wagging the dog, because the GPS unit will only follow the track and never deviate from it, even if you do in the real world. This is perfect for off-piste travel, but does not allow for verbal turn-by-turn instructions. Osmond Maps app resolves this, the only downside being that it does recalculate if you go off course. Nevertheless, Osmond Maps was giving my much smarter than me wingman a distinct advantage. In fact, Osmond Maps was giving him so much detailed information about every upcoming bend, rock, puddle and errant rabbit, thereby disturbing his preferred distraction of onboard music, that at times he preferred to switch it off altogether, which I think explains his comparatively minor contribution to the whoops, wrong way events.
say a man can lose his mind out here in the heat, in the dust. So you need a good, reliable horse. Unfortunately, out of KTM, ain't good, ain't reliable. No, that's not fair. That's pretty good, that's pretty reliable. Just for some reason he puts it in the back of your mind, and it might do more than just stop for a shit now and again. Them ain't Pumas the same way? Yes, they is. Now this here is Peter Fonder. He's an easy rider type of fella, as you can see from his demeanor on the machine.
We ended our excellent day at Moura, and considering the unforgiving ground of the previous night under canvas, we stumbled upon such a contrast in comfort and luxury levels as to be beyond description. This was the stunning Hotel Moura, where we were handed, not for the last time, the keys to room 101. To say we lowered the tone with our filthy bikes and sweaty bodies would be an understatement, but the welcome was unquestioning and the comforts beyond Pierre. Beyond Pierre? The comforts were beyond Pierre. They were beyond compare. I'll let the pictures do the talking. It was most definitely super bock o'clock, after an incredible day's riding almost entirely conducted on fabulous flowing dirt trails in every weather. Would we top this the next day? Check out episode 5 to find out, and thanks as always for watching. Bye for now.